Okay, so imagine this. You're walking past just a gorgeous, massive Bougainvillea. It's bursting with color, probably 6 feet tall, just thriving. Most of us, we'd stop, we'd admire it, maybe take a picture, and then we move on. That's casual observation. But then there's the specialized eye, the kind of mind that's trained to see something completely different.
Exactly. That eye it bypasses the whole aesthetic admiration part. It doesn't even register beautiful shrub.
Hmm.
It just pivots instantly to analysis, to strategy. The internal monologue is all about yield. It's thinking, this isn't a finished product, it's a resource. How many clones can I get from this?
And that incredibly focused, almost reproductive-centric mindset is exactly what we are exploring today. For this deep dive, we're working from a really fascinating stack of notes someone sent us. It's an entry titled Notes on Gardening, Part 735. And it documents these very specific, very advanced observations from an experienced cultivator.
And our mission here is sort of twofold. First, we're going to unpack let's call it the intellectual core of this person's specialization. We're going to show how the strategies they've learned from intensive plant propagation are just. They're intrinsically linked to their other passion, which is dedicated fish keeping. They really are two sides of the same coin.
And once we've kind of established that framework, that mindset, we're going to drill down. We'll get into the technical specifics of their projects, specifically the two very, very different ways they're approaching the difficult propagation of Bougainvillea.
Yeah, and it's really crucial context that they use the initials ANG. They reveal they've pursued both of these things for a long time. Specialized gardening, focused on propagation, and dedicated fish keeping, focused on breeding. And they say explicitly that these two activities have, and I'm quoting here, profoundly shaped how they observe all living things.
That's the key right there. That's the synthesis we need to understand. So let's start with that fundamental instinct. That moment they encounter something new in their field, whether it's a plant or an animal.
Well, look at the anecdote they give us. It's perfect. When they saw that huge, vibrant bougainvillea at the front of a nursery, the first thought wasn't, I should buy this. Not at all. It was, how many cuttings could we take from this plant to propagate? It's all about extraction and replication, not ownership.
That is such a key difference. It's the difference between being a collector and being a producer, right? The plant is instantly redefined as this source of future production, a resource matrix, like you said. And what makes this deep dive so interesting is how the author connects that exact calculation to fish keeping.
The parallel is, it's stunningly direct. When they're looking at a group of fish, the instinct isn't to look for the prettiest colors or the biggest one. No, the focus is always, always on reproductive capacity. The first questions are always, where are the female fish, or how can we best distinguish them? It's all about the potential for yield.
Okay, so let's get beneath the surface here then. Beyond just, looking for females or looking for cuttings, what specific strategies from breeding fish are directly transferable to growing plants?
It boils down to two things, really. Resource control and genetic selection. In intensive fish breeding, especially with tricky species, you are controlling every single variable, the pH, the oxygen, the temperature, the nutrients in the water, everything. You are literally designing an environment optimized for one thing, reproduction.
Which maps directly onto propagation medium. You're not just, sticking a branch in a pot of soil.
Precisely. If you're struggling to root a difficult woody cutting, the lessons from the fish tank come right into play. You stop seeing soil as just dirt. You start seeing it as this highly controlled medium. It has a specific pH, specific moisture retention, specific drainage. You apply the exact same control you would to a sensitive breeding tank.
That makes so much sense. The environment is always the variable you can adjust to maximize success. The water or the rooting substrate, it's the same principle. What about that other piece you mentioned, genetic selection?
Oh, yeah. This is where that efficiency mindset gets really sharp. In fish breeding, you often have to. Well, you have to cull. You remove the weak, the sickly, the poorly formed fry very early on. It seems harsh, I know, but it's fundamental to maximizing the quality of your gene pool.
So how does that kind of rigorous culling mindset translate to plant cuttings? You can't really cull a branch that's not doing well, can you?
Oh, you absolutely can. It just happens earlier. It informs the selection process right from the start. Instead of just taking 50 cuttings because, hey, they're available, the specialized eye is trained to select only the most vigorous ones, the ones with perfect spacing, signs of rapid growth. And if, say, 10% of your cuttings show early signs of rot or they're just not developing, you discard them instantly. You don't waste resources on a slow starter. It's ruthlessly efficient.
And that is such a powerful insight for you, the listener, that this specialized mentality is all about identifying and replicating successful traits, while applying this almost ruthless resource management to the environment. It's about constant, efficient improvement.
And that focus is what leads us right into the technical details in these notes about the Bougainvillea. The author is constantly running trials, looking for those marginal gains.
Okay, let's turn that lens toward the plant itself. The notes lay out two very distinct ways to propagate Bougainvillea. They start with their current, reliable work. They confirm that, for now, they are sticking to the more typical method using semi-hardwood cuttings.
Right, this is the baseline. And it's the subject of their ongoing research. They even link this effort back to a previous entry, Part 719, which tells you this is a continuous, methodical experiment.
So let's define that for everyone listening. When we say semi-hardwood cuttings, what exactly are we talking about, and why is that the established method?
Semi-hardwood is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's wood that's mature enough to be firm, but it hasn't fully hardened off. It's not fully lignified. It's that sweet spot, usually in late spring or early summer, where a stem is still flexible, but it holds its shape.
Firm, but not brittle.
Exactly. And it roots relatively easily compared to fully mature wood. You can get a pretty high success rate, maybe 60 to 80% with the right setup. So the author's goal in that earlier entry in Part 719 probably wasn't just about getting them to root, but optimizing it. Maybe trying to cut rooting time from 6 weeks to 4, or testing different hormone concentrations. It's all about making it more reliable.
So this is the proven method, the workhorse. It's designed for reliable, high-volume yield. But if Part 719 already established a successful protocol for this, why are we talking about anything else? Why mess with success?
Because the specialized enthusiast is never, ever content with just reliability. They're always chasing that next level. And that brings us to these advanced goal that's detailed in Part 735. This is the difference between achieving high quantity and achieving high quality fast.
Okay, tell us about this advanced technique. It sounds like a pretty significant leap.
It is a huge leap. This is propagation using large woody trunk sections. So we're moving away from flexible stems entirely. We're talking about the tough, protective bark, the fully lignified wood, a section that could be several years old, maybe an inch or more thick.
Wow. Okay, that sounds incredibly risky. If semi-hardwood has an 80% success rate, what are we looking at for these thick, woody sections?
You hit the nail on the head. We're talking about a much, much lower success rate, maybe 20 to 40% if you don't have a highly specialized environment. This is why the author frames it as aspirational. That technical difficulty just goes up exponentially. Older wood has thicker bark, it doesn't absorb hormones well, and the cells just don't want to revert to a state where they can grow new roots.
So why even try it? Given that low success rate and the high investment of resources, what's the payoff that justifies the risk?
The payoff is speed. Speed of establishment and immediate structure. That's the specialized outcome. The core aim, as they state it, is to root a much more mature cutting and train it into a smaller established tree.
Ah, the training component. That changes everything. With a semi-hardwood cutting, you get a new baby plant, sure, but it needs years to get any kind of mature structure.
Exactly. But when you root a woody trunk section, you are starting with that structure already in place. You literally bypass years of growth time. The cutting itself already looks like a miniature tree trunk. And that allows the propagator to immediately begin the aesthetic training, the pruning, the shaping, to create this desirable specimen so much faster.
This really speaks to the ambition in these notes, doesn't it? The author sees that massive shrub, and they're not just thinking about making more shrubs, they're thinking about creating these specialized advanced specimens. And you can feel the desire in the writing. Given the chance, I would absolutely love to explore this. They know it's the technical pinnacle.
It's the ultimate expression of control, really.
Yeah.
You're taking a mature piece of a plant and forcing it to restart its life cycle under these incredibly specific conditions to meet a very specific aesthetic goal. It's a synthesis of that efficiency mindset and an artistic desire for structure.
And just think about the technical side of it. For a woody trunk cutting to work, that whole resource control aspect we talked about, the lessons from the fish tank, it becomes absolutely critical. You'd need extremely high humidity, probably a misting bench going 204/7, bottom heat, and incredibly precise hormone concentrations.
Oh, yeah. If your environment is off by even a tiny bit, that high investment cutting will just rot or dry out. It's a very low margin operation. It demands a level of patience and precision that only comes from years of intensive work, both in the greenhouse and, surprisingly, in the aquarium.
It's just fascinating how these notes perfectly illustrate that constant tension, that pull between the current reliable work, the semi-hardwood method, and these aspirational, highly complex projects.
The notes reveal a mind that really views their hobbies as a kind of continuous research and development. They're never satisfied with the status quo. The standard yield isn't enough. They have to achieve the ultimate yield, which is the highly trained, structurally established specimen, and they want it faster than nature intended.
The ultimate control. So we started with a simple observation of a beautiful shrub, and we've ended up dissecting the technical and really the intellectual difference between reliable production and this risky specialized mastery.
And this ambition, it's all rooted in that specialized lens from the beginning. How do you maximize not just quantity, but quality, structure, and the speed of establishment?
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to kind of mull over. The desire here is to take a large, mature, woody trunk section and use it to create a smaller, established tree. So why do you think specialized gardeners, these people focused on mastering reproduction, why do they prioritize this kind of established training and control over just letting an easy-to-root cutting grow naturally into the biggest possible shrub? That pursuit of miniaturization and immediate structure,
Huh.
it reveals a lot about the values of a dedicated cultivator.
It really raises the question of whether a true enthusiast values the process of growth more than just the sheer size of the final product.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing the source material for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.